I'm comparing two properties to show you the hidden costs of building a new build property. Now, this one here on TradeMe is about $35,000 less than this one, but we're going to dive into the TradeMe listing to show you the reasons why, so you know what it really costs to buy a new build property. So this property is based in Rolleston and it is 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it has a double garage. This property, almost identical. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, double garage, price $785K. Now, these are in a very similar location. So we're in Rolleston in Canterbury, and here you can see we've got the main shops, the main high school, and the more expensive property is here, about the same distance away as the slightly cheaper property. Now, if you were searching for properties online and put the main details in a spreadsheet, you'd see how similar these are. Both built by quite small developers, same number of bedrooms, same number of bathrooms, same garage, almost exactly the same floor area and site area. So that's the size of the land. The only difference appears to be the price. This one here is $35,000 more. Now, these properties are probably going to rent for roughly the same. So if you're just searching online, you'd probably say, I'm just going to buy the cheaper one. However, there's something you need to know, which is that the build type is different. One is progressive payments, the other one is turnkey. Now, this is a very important distinction because these are the two ways that you can work with a developer. So under a progressive payments model, you are effectively buying the land off the developer and then you are hiring them to build you the house. So you're hiring a service. Now, with the turnkey, you are buying a finished product, a finished house off the developer. And as we'll see in this video, progressive payments builds come with hidden costs that you need to know about. The first hidden cost to think about is bank interest, and this applies to both properties. So let's start with the turnkey, and remember with this, it's slightly more expensive, but you're buying a finished product. What that means is that once the property is built, that's when you pay the bulk of the money for it. But you do still pay a deposit. Usually it's about 10% upfront. So the price of this property is $785K. You're gonna take out a loan if you're an investor, that's what most people do, and it might be $78,500. Now, if you set it up this way, you are going to pay interest on that loan while the property's being built, and it's about $100 a week. So all up, if it takes a year to build this property, you're probably gonna pay $5,000 in interest. With progressive payments, it's a bit different. You are hiring the builder to provide you a service. Because of that, you are going to pay the builder as they build the house and deliver that service. Usually, there are two components to the price. You're going to, first of all, pay them for the land, and then you are going to pay them, in this case, about $400,000 in order to build that property. Now, this can get complicated, but here's a simple way to estimate it. You are going to need the land typically for about 12 months, and then you're going to need about 65% of the build price for 9 months. Now, if you do it that way, you're going to need to pay about 35 grand in interest to the bank if you buy that progressive payment build. The other major difference is in the amount of stuff you get when you build the property. So if we're hiring the builder to do the service, not everything you think is included is going to be included. So let's look at this walkthrough. So you might look at this and think, the property is going to look exactly like this. But with a progressive payments build, usually the driveway, not included. In this specific case it is, but generally not when you're online. The boundary fence with most progressive payments builds, not included, is in this case. But all of this shrubbery, all of these bushes, not included. The grass may not come out looking pristine like this. No landscaping included within this specific build. If we go inside, look at the windows. What do you notice is not there? Curtains and blinds. With most progressive payment builds, those are not included. You've got to pay extra. You can see in this instance, we've got a fridge within the rendering. Now, with this specific property, yes, the kitchen appliances are included. With most progressive payment builds, generally not included. Let's go into the bedrooms and we see the exact same thing. No curtains within these renders. Why is that? Not included. If we go outside, we see this beautiful patio area. Generally, in most progressive payments builds, not included. In this specific one, it is. So there are some additional costs to fit out your property that you need to think about if you're going to go through a progressive payments build. In this case, you're probably going to think about curtains, $4,000, a heat pump if you are going to rent this out to tenants to meet the healthy homes requirements, letterbox and clothesline, and landscaping. Here I've allowed $12,500. I saw GJ Gardner, they sometimes recommend up to $20,000 for that additional landscaping. So in this instance, you could pay up to $21,000 to get this property tenant ready, but you don't see that on the TradeMe price. With turnkey, you're buying a finished product, so all of that should be included. The last thing you really want to think about are the pros and the cons. Let me be really clear. Progressive payments builds, they have their place. They have that lower purchase price, but the main benefit is the ability to customize. Remember, you're not buying a finished product, you're hiring a builder to build you whatever you want. You're hiring that service. So if you want to change the color of the splashback or add an extra bedroom, you've got the ability to do that. They'll charge you for it, but you can create that dream home. But there are higher risks, and we've already talked about the hidden costs. The main risk you want to think about is it is easier for the developer to increase the price. For instance, if the price of timber or concrete or labor goes up, they can pass some of that on depending on your contract. And I've got a whole video about that up here. Links also down in the description. Also, you could be stuck with a half-finished house if the developer goes broke. Remember, you have already paid for the land and you're paying interest on it if you've taken out a bank loan. So if you've paid them some money to build this half-finished house, yep, you can still get another builder in to finish it, but if there's a delay, you already have a loan, so you'll pay more in interest. There's some amount of risk within a turnkey, but it is lower. So if the developer falls over, can't complete the building, you get your deposit back. Your exposure is lower. What I want you to also think about is that increase in price. So if you go to a bank, they'll typically want you to allow 10% of the build price for those cost escalations. For this property, it's about $40,000, but in actual practice, 10% is too high, probably more like 5%. But that still means you've got to allow $20,000 for those additional costs. With turnkey, you don't have that. Now let's add up those hidden costs, but just before we do, if you're enjoying learning about property in this fact-based way, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. And if you already subscribe, you've probably noticed that there are a significant number of hidden costs. Yes, this property looks $35,000 cheaper on TradeMe, but there are a lot of hidden costs. There's an extra $30,000 in construction interest, $21,000 in setup costs, $20,000 worth of price escalation. So while it looked $35,000 cheaper on TradeMe, in practice, it's probably going to be $35,000 more expensive because of those hidden costs and the higher risk. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean that nobody should buy progressive payment properties. They can be a really good option, especially for owner-occupiers wanting to build their dream home. But if you're an investor who cares more about risks and costs and having enough rent to cover those extra costs, then you'll typically go for that turnkey property. And if you want to invest in new builds, check out our website, operspartners.co.nz. We help regular Kiwis grow their wealth with new build properties.